I do think that John's Gospel presents some challenges in comparison to the other Gospels because, for example, you look at a section of, say, Luke's Gospel, Luke 18, you've got 8-verse section, then a 6-verse section, and you get these little ones that they do weave together, and you can trace that through right the way through from Luke 18 verse 9. You can follow the pattern of what's established through to the story of Zacchaeus, for example, in 19 1 to 10. But that's a whole sequence of stories that could go individually. You come to John's Gospel, that same amount of text would be one story. And so that's one challenge, is that you've got a bigger chunk typically. There's some short ones, but conversation with Nicodemus or the woman at the well, and that's what, 42 verses, John 4. That's a long section. That's a challenge in terms of, do I even have time to read it? And how do I present this? How do I communicate these big ideas that are swirling together? But then you've got those big stories as part of a bigger flow. And so really what's happening in chapter 4 is tying together with what's happened at the start of chapter 2 and what's happened in chapter 1. It's a 4-chapter section. Once you come into 5, John 5, what starts there keeps going till John 12. Suddenly you're dealing with a 7-8 chapter section. And so you see, I understand why preachers look at that and go, oh, give me, a 5-verse parable, I'll go back to Luke. But if you can find a way to faithfully represent John in your preaching without getting bogged down and confusing, but if you can give people a kind of an entry point into that, hopefully not only does it preach well, but also it can launch them, the listeners, launch them into reading John for themselves. It takes 2 hours, 2.5 hours at the most to read through John. If I preach John and the people listening want to go home and do that, I feel like I've succeeded at something. So I think that's a great idea. Just give people a glimpse and get them in there.